Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, for the 700 years that the Romans were in charge, if you wanted to write a paper on great Roman mathematicians, you wouldn't need a piece of paper. There aren't any. Rome's biggest contribution to mathematics was they killed Archimedes. That was about it. And they actually took the Western world backwards for quite a time period. And a lot of the philosophy from mathematics at the time that the Romans appropriated actually took us backwards. I mean, it took a step back from the Greeks and others working through there. Their numbering system was cumbersome. You can try to do the division of this problem. The problem is the Romans couldn't deal with decimal points, so you didn't have that. And again, zero wasn't there. It was a positional math system, so it was, somewhat understandable, but no zeros with it. The Maya, all right, the Western world knows nothing about the Maya, but the Maya, yes, they had zero, and they worked with it. They worked with it quite a lot. Had their own little symbol for it, and it's not necessarily the zero the way we think of it completely, but it is very important within their mathematics system. Modern day math, modern day science, our counts begin with zero now. All right, it was not normal until very recently for our history. For the Maya, starting with zero made sense to them, especially when they got into working with their calendars. And they had lots of nice pictures, nice, fairly straightforward way. We can look at the stela doing their counts, a dot for 1, a bar for 5, so you can put all kinds of things together and get up to 20. Mayan number system is a base 20 system, which is not uncommon in a number of places in the world. The Greeks, in a number of their accounts, worked with a base 20. All your fingers and all your toes, so it's easy to come up with. And fraction-wise, base 20 is actually pretty forgiving number system to work with. But the Maya did use zero. They did enjoy it. They started off their count. Instead of saying zero there or thinking of it as a null, it was kind of like, this is our start point. All right, so zero was kind of a number, but not a number. But it was kind of a start point. So in their ritual calendar, in their calendar, for the ritual calendar, the month zip. They'd start with zero, but they wouldn't call it zero. They'd call it the seeding up, or when zip begins. And then they'd go 1 sip, 2 sip, 3 sip, all the way to 19. And then sots, 0 sots, the seeding of sots when it came in. Mayan calendar had 2 calendars. Their solar calendar, pretty much like everybody else's, 12 months, 30 days long, which meant you had this weird 5-day month every year that kind of fit in there, which got kind of scary for people. But they also had a ritual calendar, which was 18 20-day months within the ritual calendar, and then 5 days left over each year. Every 13 years, the 2 calendars coincide with each other. And every 52 years, they started a new century to come up. Now, everybody knows the Mayan calendar runs out next year, correct?
Yes.
December 21st, 2012. Big deal. Why does it run out? Well, let's see. They put together a calendar that went out 1,400 years in advance. Like, okay, guys, I think we're done. We can go. It's this number of 52-year centuries that's within there. And just like our calendar, fine, it ends on this day. Well, your calendar, our calendar ends December 31st. Does the world end? No, we get a new calendar that starts January 1st. The Mayan calendar resets. There's no great mystical thing to it. It's going to happen, right? But the Maya didn't work with zero. Now, Mayan math, and again, the Western world's not going to know about this until Columbus and others come in. If you've seen most of you have seen Mexican weavings, and very brightly colored, lots of neat patterns and stuff on them. If we get the textiles, if we get the weavings from the pre-classic Maya, from around 1100, 900, 1100, 1200, we look at their weavings, instead of being like they are today with multiple colors woven together to make a pattern, it was one thread, knotted in patterns, dyed in patterns, and then woven to create the pattern that you see on the blankets. For those of you who are engineering students, you'll get that math in your second semester of differential equations. It's a very complicated math set, and so by adding zero, the Maya were able to do some of these things. Babylonians, no. All right. They got close. They had kind of a concept of zero as a placeholder. But you never see zero as a placeholder at the end of a line of numbers. At the end of their symbols and numbers, there's 2 little funky wedge shapes that would come in there to kind of set things off within it. The tricky part with Babylonian math, base 60 math system, which was really friendly to fractions, was that they didn't have a positional notation system. All right? Everything in their math was based on context. All right, and we do this to an extent. So $2.25. How much is that coffee? $2.25. How much is a plane ticket from Houston to Denver? $2.25. Every one of us in this room knows by context that the $2.25 for the coffee means $2.25. $2.25 for a plane ticket means $225. All right. Babylonian math relied, even on the tablets, relied on context. You had to read the numbers in context of what was going on in there to understand what was happening with those things. So no zero working for those people as well. So zero takes care of it. The context is going to take care of it with the zeros. It takes care of a number of things. But that said, do you really have to have a zero in order to survive? Do you have to have zero in order to be able to do things? Can you actually have zero? All right, let's find out. I'm going to give y'all some stuff. We're a hunter-gatherer group. No, we're a tribal society. We live in a nice place in the South Pacific. All the bananas we want, all the fish we want. I know some people are anti-banana. All the breadfruit we want, all the coconuts, you know, all the good things. Coconut oil is good for you. It tastes good too. I mean, it's just fun stuff. You know, anything you can imagine, we've got it. All right, we're doing pretty well. Keep handing out all my stuff. Coconut oil. Actually, it's not a heart healthy thing to have. But it's good. I like coconut oil. I like coconut coated fish. You know, deep fried in coconut oil. I also need a pump that puts Lipitor straight into my body as well. And go over there and stuff.
Tofu.
All right. Everybody got some stuff? All right. Everybody got stuff. This is your stuff. I mean, this is your stuff. You look out there. There's banana trees. There's fish. There's oysters. There's anything you want is out there. Your island does really well, so I'm going to give you some more stuff. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to give that stuff to other people. You can only give them one piece. You can't give somebody all of your extra stuff. But give some stuff to people out here.
Come on, dude, over here.
Share the love.
That's all you, Rich.
Okay, and if any of y'all want to give a piece or two of your stuff to somebody else, you can. You can't give away all of your stuff. You have to have at least one piece of stuff within there. Okay, you got to have at least one piece of stuff.
Everyone's all stingy.
As long as you have one piece of stuff, you can't give away all of your stuff. As long as you've got one. As long as you've got one. All right. Now, you all live in a nice location. Things are working well. All this stuff's going good. I'm a super cyclone. I've wiped out your island. You got no stuff. Anybody he gave stuff to, if you've got more than one piece of stuff, give him a piece of stuff.
Have some stuff back.
Nice catch.
There's more stuff. Sharing is
Oh, sorry.
That's flying all
That
over
stuff
you.
was for him.
This is how we do it.
All right. How much stuff do you have now?
7, technically 8.
baller.
8 pieces of stuff.
Oh, it's right.
Did you have no stuff?
Oh, wait, you have another one right there.
Oh, there it is.
8 pieces of stuff. Cool. Did you ever have no stuff?
Right after the hurricane.
No. You still had stuff. It was just out here. You still had stuff that was out here. If you talk to a tribal society, hunter-gatherer, okay, if Bill has 5 bananas and Nadine has 6 bananas, and Bill gives 5 bananas to Nadine, how many bananas does Nadine have? 5 plus 6 is 11. 11. All right, this is the interactive portion of it. Okay, how many bananas does Bill have? Bill's got bananas. They're in the tree. All right. In a world where reciprocity is the norm, sharing and sharing alike, and you've got plenty, the basic idea is we've got your back. You can never have nothing. All right, it's always out there. If it's not there on your own, if something gets wiped out, there's people you work with. They're going to give you stuff. So you never have nothing. You've always got something. So zero is a foreign concept to a number of peoples throughout the world. They just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to them at all. There's always stuff there. And again, if you take the number of people who live in these tribal societies where it does work out, this way it does work out with reciprocity. You never have nothing.
How do they picture that when, say, they live on an island and they fish and that's their main source of food while there's a drought? So, I mean, if they aren't getting any fish, I mean, would they not sit there and say, okay, we have no fish?
They think, well, we can get fish. We can get it from somebody else, but we've got this. You know, the whole concept, you don't count no fish. It's just, all right, we've got these things. It just, for a number of people, zero is just a really weird concept for them. I mean, it's just, it would never occur to them to think we have no fish. It'd be a case of we've got other things. They wouldn't think too much about having the no fish within. And again, you're sharing with other islands and sharing with other people, so there's always going to be something coming back. Think of it in terms of smoking. All right? One, if you are a smoker, it's a nasty habit, you need to quit. But two, smokers, and I'm a former smoker, so I know this. Smokers, you bum a cigarette from somebody else. Why? Well, because they've got it, and chances are good sometime they're going to be out of cigarettes and they're going to get one from some. You're never actually without cigarettes. All right? In a more traditional college town, even here it works as well, but for me, Bryan College Station, we get Texas A&M University, we get 50,000 college students in my town. It's a nightmare. But most of my students, I asked them, how many of you have helped a friend move for nothing more than pizza and beer? And pretty much every hand goes up in the classroom, all right? That help is always out there. There's never such a thing as, well, nobody will help me move. It's like, yeah, they will. There's people out there. There's always something. So zero as a concept is kind of weird for a number of groups. So why did we invent it? Well, that gets a little bit strange too. Okay, that gets kind of in there. Because zero as a number and a philosophy are two different things. They come up in two different patterns for us. Who started it? Well, Ptolemy, the Greek mathematician, he kind of had a little bit of it, but he used an O in place of zero as kind of a place marker more than anything else. It's more like the Babylonian check marks. There were some early debates that said O was the same as for omega, which was 10. It's like, no, O had no relationship to omega whatsoever. Omega was used as a different word, as a different number set for the Greeks, so that was already there. It was just, this was a figure that he picked up that could work with it. The Maya had it, but the Western world didn't know anything about the Maya until after the 1500s. We didn't know about it. We didn't know anything about their mathematics. And for the Mayas, probably came from them. They got it from the Olmec or the Toltec, who were there before them. So it wasn't quite there. So our first key begins in India with the zeros. Our first keys are going to come up in India. And not only zero, but a big chunk of our mathematics comes from India. The Indians' philosophy allowed them to start playing with the concept of zero early on. Part of it comes from their cosmology, their belief system, and their gods. Over time, and by the time they started developing math as we know it, their system of belief, the Hindu system of belief, had started melding the many gods into one, just being different variations on it. Shiva, the creator, is often pictured with a drum and with fire. Drum in one hand, the drum of creation in one hand, the fire of destruction in the other, as being both the creator and the destroyer. Nikala Shiva is depicted as God without form. So the concept of zero coming up. Around 500 AD, Arvada comes up with the number system that we now know from India, that we've adapted, even though we call it the Arabic number system. It should be called the Indian number system, and more doing there. He did use the word ka for position, and it's very close to zero at this point in time. But the Indians were already embracing this. They in the Bhagavad Gita, or the Upanishad, it says, where there is infinity, there is joy. There is no joy in the finite. So they're already coming up with this concept of zero and infinity, working with it. Now, in terms of being a natural number, zero is not there. All right, it's got some problems with it. It's a little bit abstract with it. Typically, the words that we use for numbers and the numbers we used were for amounts of things, and people just didn't deal with zero. Again, you don't have a board 0 inches long. You don't need to count zero sheep because there aren't any sheep to count. So there's no reason to have it. And it becomes a little more abstract, and this abstraction then makes it possible to start moving into other forms of mathematics, to start working within these things. Coming up with the abstraction of the void in the Rig Veda, talking about the earliest age of God's existence was born from non-existence, very much as with the Torah and the Old Testament. There was